Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Neuro Experience podcast. I'm Louisa. I'm the host. Joining me today is DJ Kittens. And for Pride Month, this is just such an amazing episode. We're not only going to be talking about mental health, we're not going to just talk about music, but I'm actually going to go into Lauren's life as an Iranian woman living in America, in Los Angeles, and navigating her way and her life through the gay community. Lauren is incredible when it comes to human rights, and she not only shares her story, but she also goes into some of the nuances of sport, especially as it relates to the transgender community and the gay community competing at an elite level. I know you're going to love it just as much as I did. So without further delay, let's get into the episode. Kittens.
Yeah.
Lauren. Parisa.
Yeah.
Salam.
Salam.
Salam. Do you speak Farsi?
Uh-huh.
Fluent?
Yeah, my dad only spoke to me in Farsi and my mom only spoke to me in English growing up, so
Damn.
got like a twofer.
I just have to say, Attack of the Persians when I come to LA. I mean, like I've just been, today I had to do a shoot this morning with a Persian girl and her friend, both born and raised in Iran. I'm like, what is going on? I'm in a studio with you, you're Persian.
I mean, LA has, I think, one of the largest Iranian populations outside of Iran, so.
Have you born and raised here?
Yeah.
So talk to me. You're a DJ. You were a makeup artist. Mm-hmm. What else do you do? You're a podcast host.
Podcast host. Now I guess I can put restaurateur on my resume.
Drake's.
Drake's and Hudson House.
Yeah.
I'm a partner in those two restaurants.
Investor.
And
okay.
Yeah, which is so fun.
Yeah, when are we going?
I mean, you tell me.
Yeah, me, you, and Ash, who I thought was Iman.
I know everybody thinks that, and I'm like, babe, you need to maybe you just change your name at this point.
Yeah. So how long have you two been together?
Almost 4 years.
Jeez.
I know.
Yeah. You've got an active dating history. Actually, I Googled you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was fun. That was fun.
Yeah.
Googling DJ Kittens. Yeah, there was some pretty wild things on there.
Yep.
Really happy to see that you delved into the Australian space.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we went all the way back on Google.
Oh yeah.
So without being like, I'm really excited to delve into your story.
Yeah.
Okay, because your story is not like many that we've spoken about. And some of the listeners are probably thinking like, what? Louisa has a DJ on here. But there is a reason why we're bringing you on. And part of it is we are in June. June's a really exciting month for you, right? What's June mean to you?
So yeah, June is the month where corporations like to acknowledge gay people. That's fun. But yeah, just Pride Month.
I'm excited because I'm bringing you on here to talk about your journey. You're a proud Iranian woman, and you're also a proud gay woman, and you actually are going out and you're advocating for many things: gender equality, human rights. I see you on Instagram. You're everywhere. You're fighting for justice for everything, and you try. And I think that this is a story that would most likely touch many people. I think it would be difficult to come out, for anybody. But the fact that you had what I believe was a strong Iranian upbringing, I want to really talk about that and how you spoke to your dad and your mom and you told them about who you were.
I mean, I think I was lucky because my mom is American. She's not Iranian. But I was raised 1000% Iranian Persian culture. So I got kind of a balance of things. And since my parents split up when I was very, very young, I was like 2, I kind of had 2 different worlds. And in those different worlds, when I was going to my mom's house versus my dad's, I was able to kind of explore different facets of my identity. At my dad's house, I was more focused on academia and culture and family and, all those different types of values that were a bit more conservative and traditional. And then my mom's house was music, creativity. You want to go to dance class. You want to learn an instrument. You want to dye your hair some crazy color. Like, you know, whatever you want to do. I was really kind of allowed to flourish as far as my my passions and creative identity and figuring out who I was. I was given that space and encouraged to. So my experience with both of them and those two different worlds I was kind of simultaneously growing up in was very different. But yeah, my mom was great. She was actually, I didn't even have to come out to her. She knew. She was
Really?
Yeah, I had a girlfriend show up at my house. She was my first girlfriend, and like I had no idea about being gay. If I hadn't questioned it prior, met her, and then I was like, oh, light bulb. Okay, yep.
Okay.
This makes sense now.
This is what I think is happening.
Yeah, and I was like, I'm immediately in love. I was 15, like, you know, just first real relationship, first love. And I was sick one day. It was like Valentine's Day. I was sick at home. We had been dating maybe like a month. And she showed up at my house with flowers and candy. And I came back inside after getting the stuff out by her car. And my mom goes, that's not just your friend, is it?
Wow.
And I like broke down crying because I was like, oh my God.
Oh my God, I'm going to get in trouble.
Yeah. And she was cool. She just had normal parental concerns. Is this person good for you? Is this person going to be respectful and a good partner and treat you right and be a good influence, all that stuff? Those were her concerns. My dad found out a different way. I had been posting pictures of me and my girlfriend on MySpace at the time. I'm aging myself right now.
Yeah.
But, you know, he found out that way. Somebody sent it to him or he was lurking, I forget. And yeah, that's how he found out. And there was a bit more concern around that.
Yeah. Unpack that?
I mean, he's retired now, or he works part-time, but he's a very like well-respected figure in the community, a professor, and just a conservative dude, you know, traditional. Yeah. So I think there was, I can only assume there was a lot of concern about how does this reflect on me that comes up, and what does this mean for my identity, which I think that happens with a lot of parents, families, anyone that you are attached to, their identity and how they present themselves and how they are perceived kind of reflects on you.
Yeah.
So I think the concern was more about that, and also just like maybe some shock.
What are other people going to think and say about our family?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think just Persian culture in general is very concerned with that kind of stuff, with appearances.
And did that end up happening?
Yeah.
Okay. It did. Yeah.
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 But you know, that was a long time ago, and thankfully over the years, and you know, my different attempts at kind of explaining who I was and what I needed as far as acceptance and validation slowly brought things around. And now he's like besties with my girlfriend. And, you know, so he's like, tell Ash I said hi. And she's always invited to like the family events. And I'm just like, wait. If you would have told 15-year-old me this, like I would have never believed it. But
it just takes a while.
Yeah.
You said something to me offline when we were talking, and it was around not having a choice. I said to you, you know, because a lot of women and men, I think now, maybe not a lot, but may believe in some levels, no, I'm choosing this lifestyle. And you said to me blatantly, this is not a choice. Do you think I choose to be different in society?
Yeah. I mean, I actually did. I did a whole podcast episode on this because that thought came up after we spoke, and I was like, I just have so much to say about this. But
did you reference me and shout me out in the podcast?
I did it, but I was just talking about choice because I've had this conversation a handful of times, and I don't know anyone who by default is going to choose to be on the outskirts of what is embraced in society, what is considered normal and the right way, I'm so proud of who I am. And honestly, you couldn't pay me to be straight at this point. Even if I could go back and like undo everything at this point now, I wouldn't, because I'm so settled in my identity. I love my life and I love my community, and I'm good. But at the end of the day, most people aren't going to just choose to have a more difficult life. Like nobody wants to choose to have to worry about being hate crimed. No one's going to choose to have possible discrimination, safety risks, fear of alienation, possibly losing their family. Like there's so much that goes into it. So that's the choice, isn't like that. You're not going to want that for yourself for the most part, but the choice lies in, do I want to live authentically and have the best chance at happiness and fulfillment in life? Or do I want to choose to hide myself and mask parts of myself so I can make other people less uncomfortable? And in that, sign myself up for a life of likely lots of sadness and like just misery.
Yeah. But, we are also living in a world where culture is a very big thing, which you evidently know about. Imagine having 2 Iranian parents.
Yeah.
Okay. So have you come across, because I know you're doing a lot now, you've got your own podcast. Do you speak to women in your, Iranian women?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I have quite a few queer Iranian friends, and we all have different stories of coming out and experiences and just exploring our identities. And, I'm only half, so my experience is different. And I know quite a few people who both their parents are Persian, and, a Persian mom really wants her daughter to be this certain way. And when they find out, she's maybe gay, or she's not super feminine, or she wants to not be a doctor or an accountant.
Yeah.
Like, those things, it makes it a little bit harder.
Yeah.
For them. And that's why I was like, I'm so grateful that my mom is not, because I kind of I had a little island of safety to just be myself and figure out what that even meant. I do understand why a lot of people, especially in cultures and spaces that it's maybe unsafe or very, very, very frowned upon to be queer or be yourself or be anything outside of what is expected of you. I completely understand why people do hide parts of themselves. And anytime people are asking me, advice about how do I come out, or how do I explore this part of myself, I get DMs daily of people from small towns and all over the Middle East being like, I'm gay, or I'm bi, or I'm this, or I'm that, and I am so scared to tell anybody, or I can't tell anyone. And just knowing that, you're there, it makes me feel like it's okay to be me, and it gives them permission to be themselves, even if that means they're just admitting in private who they are. And I think there's value in that. But at the end of the day, you do have to consider safety. So I don't think there's anything wrong with people who maybe aren't super loud and proud because it's not safe to be. I get that. And I mean, it's really unfortunate, but.
So during, over the last 5-10 years, you've really been exploring your identity, and we've spoken about the podcast. What have you learned when it comes to gender? I think this is a whole,
very big, vague statement.
Yeah, it's a very broad statement, but I think it's interesting, right? Right now, I'm looking at sport, for example. So I coach I coach elite athletes, and right now in my world, we've got a bit of a disruption when it comes to gender. We're now seeing, men who were born men now transitioned into a woman, and they are now competing in a female league. And we're seeing a lot of controversy happening in that way. And I'm looking and I'm forecasting what sport is going to be like in the next 5 years. I think, are we going to have, 3 teams? Is it going to be a transgender team and then male and then female, or is it just female sport is just going to become obsolete? And it's just, it's playing with me. And this whole world of gender is up for discussion.
I love talking about this. I actually have an episode coming out. One of my friends is also an like elite athlete trainer.
Oh, wow.
Girly.
Okay.
Yeah. And she's incredible. And I wanted to get her, not opinion, but just have her kind of speak on this because she's such an expert in this field. And I kind of wanted her to scientifically help debunk and explain why it's a non-issue for trans women to compete against cisgendered women, because there's just a lot of fear-mongering going on. And I understand the angle and why people are like, yeah, that's not fair when they first hear things. But then once you actually get the facts, it's like, oh, yeah, okay, that's not a big deal.
Describe it to me, because, it is, right now people are probably listening thinking, but you are, if you were born a man, then you have the hormones, the testosterone still within you, which makes you more vigorous, more capable of an athlete than a woman. Therefore, it is unfair.
Yeah. So I think that's a very, very, very simple, superficial way to look at things. And there's so many other things to take into account. So from what I learned, speaking to my friend, because I was like, give me the information so I can speak on this when people ask me, because I just like it's so important. So for a long, long time, many years already, there's like limits in place and kind of like checklist stuff for trans people in sports. Their hormone levels have to be their testosterone levels have to be under a certain level to compete. They are tested already. And when trans women are taking estrogen and going through all of the HRT, like hormone therapy through transition, they lose a significant amount of muscle mass, of all the things that people think, oh, that makes men really strong and vigorous. They are significantly suppressing that. And it's something after a year of being on hormone therapy with estrogen, it's a massive drop in testosterone levels. And to compete in sports with cisgendered women, trans women have to have been on estrogen for, I think it's something like at least 3 years, something like that. There's a time limit of you've had to be on it this long. Your hormone levels have to be under a certain number. And that ends up balancing things out. So that's one thing. There's already stuff in place for this.
Okay, I didn't even know that there was it actually makes sense.
There's requirements.
Yeah,
there's requirements. So it's especially when anyone's taking hormones, whether it's somebody who is cisgendered and they're taking it for, I don't know, you're taking birth control, or men are taking testosterone replacement as they age because they want their own that's gender affirming care. Yeah. As is. If I'm a man and I'm taking testosterone because my levels are dropping as I age, that's gender affirming care. So that, we do that already. But there's all of these things. It works really quickly once you start taking hormone supplements and whatnot. Not hormone supplements, but like you're taking
exogenous hormones.
Yeah. So that's already a thing. That's kind of bringing things into a more balanced level.
Yeah.
But then the other thing is, which I find so interesting, sports are inherently unfair. It is not about make everybody equal. Like Michael Phelps, he's got a massively increased lung capacity. He produces I think it's either more or less lactic acid than the average person. So he's able to go longer doing more without having that muscle burn and that pain. His wingspan is like way above average. So he's got all of these physical abilities that are not normal for the average person. And it makes it, quote unquote, unfair for him competing against other swimmers. But people aren't looking at that
Because he was born like that.
because he was born like that. So they're just like, oh, whatever. But it's like, if we want to make everything fair and equal, what about for the NBA? Are there not like height requirements to play basketball or general expectations? If you want to play basketball, you have to be like 6 whatever. Is the average man 6 foot something? Probably not. I would assume they're a little bit on the shorter side than not 6'7".
Yeah. It's interesting that you said that about Michael Phelps. I always argue that he is in my opinion, probably one of the greatest athletes of our time, regardless of his mental state, which he's been really open about. He's gone through depression and he's been medicated. But in terms of his athletic prowess, I think he's probably one of the best athletes that I have ever seen. And I was a triathlete, so I love competing in terms of swimming. So I accept that. What I think I'm battling with when it comes to that is the fact that, I've seen this Australian trans woman competing in a football game. And you could see that her athletic ability was far outweighing the athletic abilities of the women. And that's what caused a big uproar in Australia. Okay. And then it got me thinking, well, if it makes, if 8 people make up a team, let's just say for argument's sake, what if there is 8 trans women? Yeah. Well, what if there is 8? And then does that then make a female who is born a female obsolete at the end of the day? Because a coach only cares about one thing, and that is winning. Okay. Because winning ends up getting you to, the coach does not care at the end of the day. I don't care what you were born, I don't care if you were born a man, but I just care about who's on my team, how we're going to win, because that's how we're going to end up making money and get to,
So your
gold.
concern is, what if all these trans women come in and they replace all the cisgender women and don't give them any opportunity?
Correct.
That's your fear.
Concern. I wouldn't say fear.
Yeah, concern. The percentage of trans people is so low already. I don't remember the exact numbers, so don't quote me, but it's something like 1 or 2% of our population is trans. So then of that population of trans people, what percentage of them are going to be elite level athletes? Let's say less than 1% of that 1 or 2%, right?
Yeah.
So there's a very low level of that. And then if you look historically, all of the trans athletes who have been competing, because there's already been requirements and limitations and, participation things in place, most of them are not actually winning. So the thing is, to be like, what if they all come and take over? That's actually just like, it's such a reach because it's so unrealistic, and it's kind of fear-mongery.
Yeah. The reason I said that is because I heard, and this is what's changed, and this is only in the last 48 hours, it was the fact that the roles are not, it is not, you actually don't have to transition completely. You just have to identify as a woman. So what if
the rules, where is that?
In elite sport, you just have to identify as a woman.
I haven't heard nothing about this.
This is what I've been told and this has only happened in the last 48 hours, which has actually prompted me to ask these questions.
Can we fact check? I would love to see.
Yeah,
that.
well, we can do that after the episode. And I'll definitely
I'm so
come
curious if that's a real thing.
You only have to identify as a woman, which is why I was really, surprised when you told me about the hormone check, because I thought that's amazing. Yeah. And if so, let's just go down this route of if that was a thing. If that was a thing, then my statement prior, the concern would be validated.
So if that was the case, because already we can agree completely, sports are inherently unfair. There are people who have inherent advantages in sports, whether it's you were born taller or your hormone levels. There are cisgender women who actually have higher testosterone levels that give them advantages, but because
Serena Williams, maybe not higher testosterone levels, but she has been called out.
There's this one, I forget her name, but she was a runner in the Olympics, and there was some issue about it.
Marion Jones?
I don't even remember her name, but I believe she had PCOS, and so her testosterone levels were higher than average. And which she was born that way. But she had I don't know, she was just an amazing athlete. And it caused a whole fuss because it was like, oh, well, let's find an excuse as to why this is not fair and make her, she was, I think, either told to or forced to or do this or you're out kind of thing about suppressing her hormones. So they put her on testosterone blockers to lower her levels to make it more fair. So if it is true that you can just identify without any kind of physiological changes, hormone changes expected, I love how they manage wrestling. And in wrestling, you have the weight class categories and the breakdowns there. And it's, if you're within this pool, y'all can fight. Yeah. And that's how it is. And it's not broken up specifically by gender or by whatever. It's based on these other things that make it more fair. So if that is the case and people are going to be up in arms and causing a fuss about it, I don't think it should be, okay, trans people on their own team and they fight each other or they, play each other. I think it should be women as a whole. If there's women's sports, which unfortunately, sports are still very gendered, which I think is just honestly silly. But if it is women's sports and we want to make it fair for everybody, allow trans women to compete, allow them to play, but put some things in there where it's like, okay, if we want to have people play sports or play basketball, for example, there's no problem with trans women playing basketball with cisgendered women. And if you want to make it fair, break it down by people who are below this height can play and people over this height can play each other. Or if they want to do hormone testing, do it for everybody. Make it fair across the board so that it's fair for everyone. It's the singling out of trans people, which is so foul to me and problematic because there are way bigger issues, especially in sports.
Such as?
How many
doping?
How many cisgender athletes are taking stuff to enhance their performance? Yeah. How are we regulating that? How is that fair? If you want to regulate and check out somebody's body, check out their levels, check out things to keep it fair, make it fair for everybody.
Yeah. So on the topic of gender, it's, moving away from that and looking just at male, female, we can look at gender as a whole. Where do you think we're going wrong as a society when we talk about, let's just say, women as a whole?
Where do I think we're going wrong talking about women as a whole?
Yeah, as a gender, because I think you and I offline, I was telling you, I was giving you an analogy of the bees. And we were speaking, I'll give everybody a background, okay? So I love honey. I do anything to, I think one day I'll have a beehive, and you said you were petrified of bees.
Yeah.
And so, no, the story is, it's actually quite interesting. So what happens is, there is a beehive and it's made up mainly of female bees, and male bees, which are called a drone, their only job is to procreate. And when they procreate, they have to go out during mating season, find a female bee, bring her back to the hive, inseminate her, and then they have to go and die. And if they don't bring back a female bee, they actually get killed by their sisters. And so in the bee culture, men are only there to procreate and then die because they take up too much room, A. Secondly, they eat too much food, so they want to get rid of them. And I was thinking about that. We have two males currently in the podcasting studio, so I'll just keep it light, but we've got three women, so that's fine. But I was thinking about that and thinking about, okay, if the bees, imagine if we were like that in society, where not as if like we go and kill men after they procreate, but like I was thinking more about like gender roles, and women having the ability now, we go out and work, then we've got people arguing for equal pay, and our conversation went down that way.
I'm actually this is a tangent, but I'm so excited for the Barbie movie to come out because one of my friends is in it. And so I know the whole story already, which I'm so excited about. And I actually have a podcast episode with her coming out. But the theme of it is essentially this.
What is it?
Barbie has all this value. She is the one that has the career, has the access.
She has it all.
Everything's about her. It's Barbie land. And Ken is just the accessory. Ken is just there to exist, to be an accessory for Barbie. And then it's like, you know, flipping.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's going to be a whole like discussion on patriarchy and kind of flipping gender roles and all that, which is, I'm so excited to see how this goes down. But at the end of the day, I don't think that it's, you know, this gender or that gender is better or worse. I think everybody has value and everything should be treated equitably. And it's not. And that is what I don't like.
How isn't it?
I mean, just traditionally, going back however many years, it's just patriarchy's reign supreme. And men have been in positions of power for so long. And you know what? I get it. If my group of people was at the top, I would do whatever is possible to maintain that power structure that serves me. So I get why things have gone down the way they have. And that's going to take some time to dismantle and balance out. And since things have been on one end of the spectrum for so long, where women have kind of been, you know, we couldn't have bank accounts in the United States until what, like the 70s? Like, that's insane. It's insane. So things have been one way for so long. And now, and I think this is something that happens in so many different little pockets of society with different groups, is when the oppressed group starts to rise up against the oppressor, no matter who it is. If you want to talk about race, we have, you know, white versus black. If we have men versus women, whatever binary you want to go at, when the oppressed group that has traditionally had less power, less access, less, you know, whatever, starts getting some, then there is this kind of, I would say, I guess, desire to go way farther and then eventually come back to a balance, because men have been here for so long, women have been here for so long, and it's like, let's shoot to the top.
Yeah.
Because we've been down here for so long, let's jump as high as we possibly can. And then eventually things will kind of even out into an equilibrium that's sustainable, which is, you know, we don't really know what will happen, because at the same time things can backfire. We've seen that in our political structure. We went from Obama to Trump. He's like, you know, sometimes one extreme gets really mad that something's happening and they push back even harder. But as far as women's value in society goes, which is what I think the topic is really about, is I think and I hope that with time, women's value and people of all oppressed groups and classes and backgrounds, I think everybody is starting to have more of a voice and starting to be seen as a full human that deserves to have an equitable amount of value, power, access, impact.
Yeah. It's interesting because as we speak, you were mentioning something that you've recently figured out about yourself, and I'll let you share what that is. But you know, you said you went to the doctor and you were concerned about, you know, giving him all your symptoms, and you said, Louisa, like, why? You know, I think that if a man went and did this, he would have been diagnosed 10 years ago.
Oh yeah.
Well, give us like the complete background on that.
So I was diagnosed with ADHD in the fall, and thankfully for the pandemic, that's how I figured it out. I had no idea that this was even, I didn't know that all of the things that I've struggled with for my whole life.
What was it? Not so much lack of focus, right? It was, okay, lack of focus,
major decision paralysis, a lot of trouble task switching. I would zone out a lot, and I'm always thinking like there's 27 levels of thought at the same time in my brain, always. And that's fine. But sometimes I need to just be able to zone in on one and keep it there.
Yeah.
And to be able to pause doing something, go eat. I don't know, go to the bathroom and be able to come back and continue what I was doing. And for so long, I couldn't do that. And I knew if I got up, if I finally got into a place of focus, if I paused for any reason, even to go get a snack, I knew it would be the biggest obstacle in the world to get back into that place of focus. And all of the struggles that came along with that caused me to procrastinate so hard because I would be so overwhelmed with the idea of all of the mental labor that would come from having to even get to a place of focus. So I would just dread when I actually had to do something, and I would wait till the absolute last moment where that adrenaline kicks in and that pushes me through to the focus part. Mm-hmm. But that's like, oh God, that's so stressful. I wasn't able to have a balanced life.
Yeah. You probably didn't understand what was going on.
No, I had no idea. I thought for so long, I was like, why am I so lazy? I want to do these things so badly. Why can't I just make myself do them? Why can't I just do it? Maybe I'm self-sabotage. And I would over-intellectualize and be like, I'm just self-sabotaging. Maybe I just don't think I'm worthy. And I would go through all that. And then I was like, oh, this is just a symptom of ADHD? What?
And so you went and,
Yeah. So first I started, I had actually gotten a new therapist. And in my first session with her, she's like, has anyone ever talked to you about neurodivergence? And I was like, okay, well, all right. So this is the thing. And she's like, yeah, I think we should explore this a bit more. And I was like, okay. And so she really helped me she confirmed all of my concerns, because I didn't even mention, I think I might be struggling with this. And so once I tried kind of behavioral adjustments and making different types of lists and just things like that, we ended up deciding like, okay, I think it's time to kind of go the medical route too, because it's still so hard to manage.
Sorry to cut you off, but it's interesting because, doing everything natural first is like the first point of call, whether it's, just taking care of your brain, whether it's just doing whatever you can, whether it's doing the lists, whether it's having, the right diet, the supplements, the sleep, the sunlight, and
meditating,
then if
being active, all the things. I tried all the things.
You tried all the things. You tried all, loving my brain, because that's actually what it is. If it is anything neurological, we think, okay, well, let's do first point. Let's just love your brain every single day. And if that fails, then turn to medication. Yeah. There are a lot of people in this space who are like, well, I don't want to turn to Ritalin, for example.
Yeah, I don't take any stimulants, actually. I was really scared of that. So.
Yeah, or anything to, combat that. And you can definitely move past it. But, I told you this fact, and it was so interesting. Most adult people, both men and women who have ADHD, it turns out that they will almost certainly have affairs and be
it's dopamine
unfaithful.
Seeking.
I'm so happy that you said that. Yeah. So it is a problem of dopamine. And dopamine is a neurochemical neuromodulator responsible for drive, motivation. It's that thing that says, well done, you've done it. It rewards you once you've done something. But because you're always like, boom, 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 you're looking for that dopamine everywhere. And you're just like, okay,
anywhere I can get it.
Where can I get it? It's like a drug. And that's what causes most people to become unfaithful, which is funny, right? Because then we see things happening in society. I don't know if you notice in the lesbian world, it may happen as well. It happens in every world. There is a lot of that as well. I think like faithfulness is a question, something that I always think about, and I'm like, oh, but then again, maybe it's an every person thing.
I think it's just a human thing. I think people struggle with commitment and faithfulness because they get bored, and we have access to, you can go on a date with 17 people right now if you just open up Tinder. We have access to so much. So
would that be a dopamine thing, do you think, or is that a
I think
that a 2023 thing?
I think maybe both.
Yeah.
I think that's why people are so addicted to social media, because they get a little dopamine hit every time somebody likes a photo, every time they get you've matched, every time there's, it's just tiny little dopamine hits all day.
Yeah. So what are you doing every day now just to love your brain, live a healthier life?
I take my Wellbutrin every morning. So that's a good one. Yeah, I take that. I super, super big on hydrating. So I drink a ton of water.
Yeah.
I meditate. I listen to brown noise a lot, which
Brown noise, not white noise.
no, brown.
Okay.
It's so calming.
What is brown noise?
So there's different types of, there's brown, pink, white, all these different types, and all these different types of noise, which it's really helpful because I can actually add those when I'm working on music. You can put different types of noise underneath something to kind of fill the space. But the different noise is different frequency levels, and those different frequencies can kind of elicit a different response in your brain.
Is that like binaural beats?
I don't listen to binaural beats, but I assume it does the same kind of thing. It's also why certain music makes you feel certain things. There's just different frequency levels that trigger different things in your brain. But brown noise sounds kind of like if you're on an airplane and you have earplugs in, and there's just that kind of rich, low humming.
Yeah.
It's like that, and it's super, super calming. And so I just have my headphones on and I put on brown noise, and I'm just either meditating or kind of going about what I need to do. But it helps me tune out everything and kind of tune in to myself and check in with, is there any mental chatter here that I need to address and kind of like spot it and move it out? Or is there anything I need to kind of, I don't know, is there anything I need to address within myself?
Yeah.
So that I can move forward throughout my day without being distracted more than I normally am.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the main thing. Other than that, I just make sure I'm taking in enough of my vitamin D supplements, and
I love that.
just yeah.
Yeah. So then what's the next steps for you? Because I know that you're building your brand. I feel like you're a very amazing advocate in this space, especially human rights, and I love it. And I want to know what's over the next 5-year horizon for you.
I was actually meditating on this today. I think I have all my dreams in the world for what I want to do and my plans and whatnot. But I kind of threw all of those out and replaced them with feelings. So instead of, I want to have a company that's blah, 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 or I want to do this thing, or I want to have this thing, I want to feel successful in my own way. And my success involves feeling at peace, feeling secure, feeling inspired, feeling like I'm supporting other people and like I'm impacting groups of people every day. And my life has always kind of been things present themselves, and I just kind of go with my gut. Yeah. And it's how I jumped from being a makeup artist to doing music to a restaurant to I just kind of, I'm like, this feels right. Let's run it.
Yeah.
So I kind of don't want to make plans. I make plans for the way I want to feel.
I love that. I love that so much. I think I've been reading a lot about, her name's Abraham Hicks, and I've been reading a lot about the law of attraction, and she speaks about follow the feeling. I think that's a really good analogy.
Oh, yeah.
I want to close out by asking you, what if somebody listening is cultural background and they're finding it tough to maybe come out? What are some of the pieces of advice you would give them?
Number one, do whatever is safest for you. If that means you just come out to yourself, that's enough. You don't have to put yourself in harm's way. There's no right way to do it. You can tell one person, you can tell your whole family, you can tell the world and post it on social media, whatever you want to do. But if you are struggling, I think keeping in mind that your worth is not tied to how your loved ones see you. I think that's really important to remember. And it's really hard to remember that you're more than how your parents view you or how you're perceived. And life is hard and sucks. Just choose the thing that gives you the best chance at happiness. We're only here for so long.
Some of us here longer than others, depending on how well we take care of ourselves.
True.
But Kittens, thank you so much for being part of the Neuro Experience podcast. Where do you hang out most? Is it on Instagram?
Yeah, I'm more on Instagram for sure. At I am Kittens or at she, her, they, both.
Both?
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to link all of those below.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.